Welcome everybody to the Q&A with Stu from Sunshine Coast Snake Catchers. We've got a lot happening at the moment with the business. We've got new team members. I hope this question is about our new team members, like some are behind the camera. We've got another TV show happening, which is really exciting. We've got heaps of content happening and lots of snakes. So let's do this.
Okay, so this is probably the most common question that we get asked.
What? Have you ever been bitten?
That's coming. How do you become a snake catcher?
Well, I actually literally just got off the phone with someone, having a conversation with them. Now, it is very hard. It took me about 3 years to become a professional snake catcher full time. Often we encourage people to try and gain experience through working at a zoo or working with someone who's got a captive collection of venomous snakes. But essentially you have to gain experience, probably 2 or 3 years worth, and then you have to apply for a government permit. And with that, you probably need to do like a venomous snake handling course, get your first aid certificate, and you also need people to sign off on your experience. So that's probably the best way. It is a very hard and difficult industry to get into. It's not like an apprenticeship where you can kind of just walk into it and gain that experience whilst on the job. Obviously, we don't recommend being very green with your experience and going out and trying to catch a 6-foot brown snake. Can be quite dangerous, but yeah, it is a bit of a process, but it can be done.
Have you ever been bitten by a venomous snake?
Venomous snake. I've never been bitten by a highly venomous snake. When I say highly venomous, I'm talking about eastern browns, red-bellies, rough-scaled snakes. I have been bitten by a whip snake before, just a little one, bit me on the knuckle, I think it was, and it stung for a couple of minutes and then nothing happened. Obviously, it's a venomous snake and different people are going to react differently to even a bite from a whip snake. So anytime you get bitten, we do recommend going through the snake bite first aid procedure, and also been bitten by brown tree snakes, but I wasn't envenomated. So yeah, just the two have had some very close calls with highly venomous snakes over the years. They've come up close to my wrists and fingers a few times, and nearly got bitten on the chest by a red-belly back in the day. But yeah, thankfully no bites from highly venomous snakes.
Yet.
No, I can't believe you just said that.
Why do we use a hook instead of tongs to catch snakes?
Very good question. So I choose to use a hook, and a lot of snake catchers choose to use a hook as essentially an extension of their arm. It allows us to put something into situations or underneath things where we can't see. It's also an easy way of bringing the snake to us, or making that initial contact with the snake, or being able to hook it up out of a pit or out of a container or something like that, rather than trying to reach in and grab it. It's also a way, the hook, of helping to support the snake's body when we're holding it. The problem with tongs now, yes, there are tongs out there that can probably be used safely, but unfortunately the ones that we see people using are the ones with essentially the 2 metal clamps, and as soon as you clamp down on a snake, even though they're quite resilient animals, that pressure can damage internal organs, it can break spines, it can break rib cages. Tongs are just not good for using with snakes incorrectly. Now, I think it's more like an Americanized thing, very popular over there to use tongs, but I don't think they have strict rules like we do in regards to, I guess, animal welfare and the rules around protecting native wildlife and all that sort of stuff. So I just personally don't like using them. And I think I was actually telling somebody the other day, the only time I've ever used tongs, now I didn't buy these tongs, I was given them. The only time I ever used them was when I had an eastern brown snake off a very steep bank. So it was sort of flat, and then the bank just fell away meters and meters. And what had happened was behind a school, and the maintenance guy for probably the last 12 months had been throwing palm fronds and tree branches and stuff off the bank, and it piled up to the point where it was about a metre down from the bank. Now, the brown snake was sitting on top of that basking, and I simply couldn't safely reach it. I couldn't stand onto the palm fronds because I would literally fall and collapse through it. So I used the tongs to gently grab the snake by the tail, where essentially I would pick it up, and I brought it straight to my hand, and as soon as I grabbed it, I released the tongs. And that's the only time I've ever used them in my career. It's just not something I recommend people using. We prefer to use our hands, and that's probably the safest way of doing it.
Cool. Do we carry antivenom?
No, we do not, as snake catchers, carry antivenom. Essentially, the way that antivenom works is it does have a shelf life. It can be dangerous if used in the wrong situations. It's not a situation where, it's like an EpiPen where you have allergic reaction and bang, you put it in. If I was to get bitten by an eastern brown snake right now, I would do the appropriate first aid. I would then call an ambulance. The ambulance would then monitor all my vitals, whether that's doing blood tests or blood pressure or just general bodily functions and how they're working. That would happen over a 12 to 14 hour period, I believe it is. At what point I start going downhill or actually require antivenom would be the only point where that would be administered to me. So just because you get bitten by a venomous snake doesn't mean you get antivenom. It's one of those things where the call is made by a doctor once you're in hospital, and it's usually when you're on the very downhill slide heading towards succumbing to the bite that they will give you antivenom.
Is it true that juvenile snakes are more venomous than adult snakes because they don't know how to control their venom?
Very good question. Now, there's more and more studies being done on this, but this is my understanding of it. In terms of the actual potency of the venom, when looking at like an eastern brown snake, I would say no, there's no difference between a juvenile and an adult, or a baby and an adult. However, I believe that there are studies out there showing that the venom can work in slightly different ways, whether it's a baby eastern brown or versus an adult eastern brown, and that's mainly because of what the brown snake's eating. So an adult male, not just a male, an adult eastern brown snake predominantly will just eat rodents. That's their main food source. They can eat other things, but it's mainly like 90% rodents. Whereas a baby eastern brown snake, when it's only this long, obviously can't eat a rat, so it's going to be eating basically anything it can get its mouth around. So little skinks, maybe even little frogs, basically anything small that a brown snake can get onto, geckos, stuff like that. So essentially when a snake is attacking a certain type of prey, then it'll need venom that will work for that prey item. So it does vary slightly in terms of the properties and how the venom acts on the prey item. But in terms of the actual potency and how it affects humans, I'm pretty sure if you get bitten by an eastern brown snake when it's a baby or an adult, you're in strife both ways. Mm-hmm. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, definitely. What is the largest number of snakes we have caught in one day as a team?
As a team, I think the record, so we obviously cover quite a big area. We essentially cover from Logan all the way up to Noosa and out to Gympie and everywhere in between. Obviously, the majority of the jobs that we get are on the Sunshine Coast area and the Moreton Bay area. I think in terms of, we've definitely had consistent days where we've done 30 or even over 40 jobs between our big team, and on any particular day we might use 10 to 12 snake catchers on those big days. But yeah, I'd say there's been a couple of days in the 40s. But then, taking that into account, if we end up getting, say, 30 or 40 jobs between a group of 8 or 9 catchers that are covering that day, we might also take an extra 30 or 40 phone calls on top of that, where we're giving people advice, and then we might, they might not turn into jobs, and then we might do another 30 to 40 messages through Instagram or Facebook where we're giving more advice. So sometimes in terms of how many people contact us with a question or needing our help or just an inquiry, it could be over 100 people in a day.
Is it true that red-bellied black snakes keep eastern browns away?
That is not true. So I think where this comes from, eastern browns and red-bellies are not territorial in the fact that they will keep each other away, or an eastern brown snake will keep another brown snake away, or a python will keep a blue tongue or whatever. It doesn't really work like that. But if a snake is occupying an environment and is eating all the food, and another snake rocks up and there's no food and shelter for it, then that snake might move on. So that's maybe one area where that myth has come from. The other one is that there has been documented in videos of larger red-bellied black snakes eating eastern brown snakes. Oh, saved by the bell. Another job. So just to finish that last question before we get interrupted. So they're not territorial. Red-bellies won't keep browns away. Browns won't keep red-bellies away. Next.
Is...
It's not gonna happen. Yeah, okay, no worries. Well, if you're happy to keep an eye on the snake until we get someone there, someone's just texting them now. All good, Summer?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we'll get someone heading out straight away. Thanks so much. All right, bye. Oh my goodness, another one. Oh, sorry for the slight delay there. We had to attend, geez, what was it, 2 or 3 jobs? Including a brown snake on the move, which is a lot of fun. All right.
Check out our socials to
Check out our socials,
see that video.
and we'll put a little bit of a highlights wrap right now.
We're going to do a few more questions. What is your personal favourite snake to catch and why?
Favourite snake. You can't go past an eastern brown snake, which I just caught. So I think mainly for the reason of the challenge involved and obviously the risks involved with catching an eastern brown snake. They're the second most venomous snake on the planet. Very good at defending himself, but like all snakes will try and get away from us if they want to or need to. So probably, yeah, I'd say the eastern brown snake always gets the heart going. Okay,
and this kind of leads into the other one. Do eastern brown snakes chase people?
No, so eastern browns do not chase people. This one needs a little bit of explaining. So the way that eastern browns will defend themselves is if they feel threatened, they'll essentially lift their body up, potentially the first 2 or 3 feet of their body. I've seen big ones do it, and they'll put their body into an S position and essentially show you their belly, which is sort of most of the time full of orange little dots, and open their mouth and can look quite scary. Now, we'll chuck a bit of footage of that in this YouTube video just so you guys can see what I mean.
Hey, look at this. Look at him come towards me. Now, people might think this is chasing, but this is his defensive measure. He's literally got nowhere to go. Hey. Oh. Wow. So as you can see, he's very, very defensive. Now, people might see that as him chasing me. It certainly is not the case. That's his defensive posture. That's his way of saying, Stu, back off.
Now, as part of that, if you don't remove yourself from that situation, you're still a metre from the brown snake and it's essing up like this, they will sometimes do this and actually come towards you in a manner which may look like chasing, but to chase something, based on the definition I understand, is to actually catch something and finish the job. Whereas if you move away from a brown snake when it's coming at you like that, I can guarantee you it will drop down once it deems you not a threat, and it'll turn around and go the opposite direction. So I can see where the confusion is, but brown snakes certainly do not chase you. Hey, dog.
Is snake venom harmful if it gets into an open wound?
Hey, don't growl at me. Snake, do you want to be on the YouTube or not? Okay. Snake venom is,
Is it harmful if it gets into an open wound?
Yes, it can be. So venom needs, you don't like this, do you? Down you go. So yeah. So venom has to be injected rather than be consumed. So, however, if you were to, I wouldn't recommend drinking venom. If you were to drink venom and had some sort of cut, you're being annoying. Some sort of cut in your mouth, dude. So snake venom has to be injected, so it can go into your lymphatic system or into the bloodstream. Whereas if you drink venom, I guess there's a potential chance that nothing would happen because you're ingesting it rather than being injected. But yeah, if there's an open wound and that sort of thing, then yeah, absolutely, it could be absorbed through that open wound. You know, there are people out there who've either worked around venomous snakes for decades or been bitten by a heap of venomous snakes where they can just have reactions when walking into a venomous snake room and not even getting bitten just because they're, you know, that allergic or prone to having a reaction, even from potential particles in the air. So yeah, it's pretty crazy what the capabilities of venom are. Once again, I would definitely not recommend drinking venom. It's certainly not something to muck around with. But yeah, it can be, yeah, it'd be a pretty bad situation, I reckon, if you got a bit of venom on an open wound. It wouldn't be good.
As a child, did you ever think you'd be a snake catcher when you grew up?
As a child, shit, that's a switch. I should be wearing my nose strip.
You didn't get a nose job. Some
didn't get a nose job.
Some people think you did.
When I was a child. So I wasn't initially interested in snakes. It was mainly lizards. I still have
Like
4 lizards.
7 lizards, nice.
No, 4 lizards left. A shingleback, which is probably the oldest one, 28, 29 years old. Martha. We all love Martha here in the office, especially the ladies, Summer and Ella. But anyway, yeah, so never a massive fan of snakes back in the day. Would see them whilst camping with parents, but would mainly just be chasing lizards in the dunes and stuff like that. And then I worked at Australia Zoo. During my time there, I started working with snakes every single day. And I guess the love for snakes, or the fascination for snakes, grew from there. And it's kept growing up until today. So that's where it came from.
Very nice. Are snakes territorial?
Snakes are not territorial in the fact that they won't defend a territory. So if you've got a backyard or like an acreage property, you know, it's not a case where you're going to have a carpet python that's going to defend that area against all other snakes coming in, or a brown snake, and vice versa. They can have a home range, which I can understand how that gets mixed up with territory, but they won't necessarily defend that home range. They're going to live within that home range. They're going to use shelter sites. They're going to use sites for food. There's going to be a dam or whatever for water. But multiple snakes can occupy an area. So we've lifted a piece of tin and found, 2 or 3 different species sheltering and sleeping under the same bit of tin. We've found, 2 or 3 species sheltering and using a roof space at someone's place as a spot to sleep or look for food. We've seen red-bellies and eastern browns under the same concrete slab. So yeah, they're not territorial in the way that they'll defend a territory from other snakes.
Last question, are you ready?
I couldn't even speak at the end. Mm-hmm.
You ready? Mm-hmm. Who's your favourite employee?
To be continued. Thanks so much for watching this YouTube, guys. We're planning on doing a heap more of these this year, and incorporating, I guess, some longer catching videos and a bit more behind the scenes stuff for you guys to enjoy, and hopefully a bit of stuff from the TV show as well. But thanks again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and hopefully heaps more cool videos coming your way.